quantum transmission crackled through the void, its message burning across every inhabited system in the galaxy like wildfire through dry grass. Admiral Thaddeus Korath stood before the assembled Galactic Council, his weathered face carved from granite, his steel-gray eyes promising annihilation. "You have 72 hours, he said, his voice cutting through the stunned silence of 10,000 alien delegates. "Return our children, or we will take them back ourselves." The Zarkonian Chancellor Vextalin features shifted in what passed for amusement among his species. "Commander Korath, you seem to misunderstand your position. Humanity controls exactly 47 systems. The Empire spans 4 million. Your emotional outburst is understandable, but hardly, Admiral," Thaddeus corrected, his tone dropping to sub-zero. "And it's not an outburst. It's a declaration of war." The incident that sparked this moment had occurred 3 weeks ago on Kepler 44, to be a human agricultural colony on the Rim territories. The hegemony's Genetic Compliance Division had arrived without warning, conducting what they termed a species purity assessment. They had taken 847 human children, declaring them genetically anomalous and in need of corrective processing at the Empire's bio-facilities. Sarah Chunvokov, the colony's administrator, had managed to transmit the horrifying truth before communications were severed. The Empire wasn't just taking their children, they were harvesting them. Human neural tissue, it seemed, possessed unique properties that enhanced psionic abilities in other species. For 3 centuries, the Empire had been quietly abducting humans from frontier worlds, telling themselves it was for the greater galactic good. Now, standing in the great assembly of Zarian Prime, Thaddeus watched as the alien dignitaries whispered among themselves, with barely concealed contempt. To them, humanity was an upstart species, barely past their first industrial revolution when the Empire had made contact. They had been granted membership in the galactic community as a curiosity, a pet species to be tolerated and occasionally exploited. "Your ultimatum is noted," Chancellor Vextel finally responded, his voice dripping with condescension. "But, I'm afraid, the hegemony cannot comply. The subjects in question are being processed for the betterment of all galactic civilization. Surely you understand the needs of the many. The needs of the many," Thaddeus repeated slowly, "are about to become very fucking simple." The translator AI struggled with the profanity, causing it to echo strangely through the vast chamber. Several alien species physically recoiled at the rawness of human emotion bleeding through the universal communicator. Dr. Elizabeth Blackwood stepped forward from the human delegation, her pale hands trembling not with fear, but with barely controlled rage. As humanity's foremost xenobiologist, she had spent decades studying alien physiology. Now, that knowledge would serve a different purpose. "We know about Project Synthesis," she said quietly, her words causing a ripple of shock through the assembly. "We know about the harvesting. We know about the neural farms on Kelthera the 7th. And we know," her voice rose to cut through the growing murmur, "that you've been doing this for 300 years. The silence that followed was deafening. Chancellor Vextel's crystalline body flickered through several color spectrums, sign of extreme agitation in his species. 71 hours and counting, Thaddeus said, turning his back on the assembly. "Choose wisely." As the human delegation walked out, none of the alien delegates noticed the small device Dr. Blackwood had discreetly attached to her SETA quantum relay that would soon transmit everything they had heard to the hidden human fleet waiting in the void between stars. War was no longer a possibility. It was inevitable. In the depths of space, far beyond the reach of any galactic sensor array, the human fleet waited in perfect silence. The Retribution, Admiral Korath's flagship, hung motionless in the cosmic dark, its hull modifications invisible to conventional scans. Around it like predators gathering for a hunt. 200 vessels maintained formation each, one a testament to 3 centuries of hidden human ingenuity. "Captain," Jung-hoon Park monitored the quantum communications array, his fingers dancing across holographic displays that would have been incomprehensible to Empire technology. Signal received from Dr. Blackwood, he reported. The Council rejected our terms. Chancellor Vextel specifically stated that human children are resources to be allocated for galactic stability. A growl of pure fury echoed through the bridge, emanating from Commander Zex Meridian, the fleet's tactical coordinator. I glowed crimson as combat algorithms processed targeting data. Then we show them what human resources can really do. What the Galactic Empire didn't know, what they couldn't know, was that humanity had been preparing for this moment since first contact. While they had played the role of grateful newcomers, human scientists had been studying, adapting, and improving. Every piece of technology shared with them had been reverse-engineered, enhanced, and WEAPONIZED. Dr. Minjun Kessler, the fleet's chief xenobiologist, stepped into the tactical briefing room carrying a secured data tablet. His research had taken a dark turn in recent months, focusing not on understanding alien life, but on ending it efficiently. I've completed the biological analysis of the major Empire species, he announced to the assembled command staff. The Zarkonians are vulnerable to quantum-charged plasma in the 2.4 terahertz range. It disrupts their crystalline matrix. The Velthani have a fatal weakness to manipulate it. Magnetic fields that can cause their biomechanical symbiotes to turn against them. Admiral Korath studied the data with the cold calculation of a man who had lost everything worth protecting through diplomacy. How many species in their military? 17 primary combat races, 43 support species, Dr. Kessler replied. I have countermeasures for all of them. Lieutenant Commander Esioyan Voss, humanity's youngest fleet captain at 28, pulled up a holographic display of the Empire's military infrastructure. Her ship, the Inevitable Consequence, specialized in what humans had termed logistics interdiction. Their supply lines are their weakness, she reported. The Empire is vast, but they've grown complacent. Their logistics network assumes peaceful transit through established hyperspace corridors. They've never had to defend against an enemy that doesn't follow their rules. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Empire's military doctrine was based on overwhelming force applied through predictable channels. They had never faced an opponent that would strike at their infrastructure, their supply lines, their civilian populations. They had never faced an enemy that would break their rules. Phase 1 begins in 18 hours, Admiral Korath announced. Chen, I want the communication blackout ready. When we move, I don't want a single Empire world able to coordinate with another. Sarah, Chen Volkov, now serving as the fleet's electronic warfare specialist after evacuating from Kepler 44 to B, nodded grimly. Her expertise in galactic communication networks would soon be turned to a decidedly hostile purpose. Commander, Blackwood reviewed her biological warfare protocols one final time. The Empire had made a fatal error in underestimating human adaptability and human ruthlessness. They had studied alien physiology to understand and help. Now, that same knowledge would be used to cause maximum casualties with minimum resources, as the fleet prepared for what human military historians would later call the Harvest War. Each officer carried the same cold fury that had driven Admiral Korath to make his ultimatum. They had taken human children. They had harvested human minds. They had treated humanity as a resource to be exploited. They were about to learn that humans, when cornered and enraged, became something far more dangerous than a resource. They became a weapon. The attack began not with explosions or energy weapons, but with silence. Across 47 Empire border systems, the hyperspace communication relays simply ... stopped. Navigation beacons went dark. Emergency channels dissolved into static. In the span of 13 minutes, the outer rim of the Galactic Empire lost its voice. Admiral Koroth watched the tactical display from the bridge of the Retribution, as red indicators marked each successful strike. Sarah Chun-Volkov's electronic warfare protocols were performing flawlessly. Every quantum relay, every subspace transmitter, every emergency beacon in the target systems had been simultaneously overloaded and destroyed. Communication blackout complete. Captain Jung-hoon reported, "The Empire's outer rim is isolated." Phase 2, Koroth ordered. The human fleet emerged from the void like ghosts materializing in a graveyard. Their ships, equipped with technology the Empire had never seen, bypassed every sensor array, every early warning system, every defensive measure that had kept the galaxy peaceful for millennia. Lieutenant Commander Seoin struck first, her ship Inevitable Consequence appearing in the Kelthara system like death itself. The bioharvesting facility, orbiting Kelthara V, where human children had been processed for 3 centuries, never detected the approaching vessel. Target acquired. Seoin reported over quantum com. Beginning bombardment. The weapons that struck the harvesting station weren't conventional plasma cannons or kinetic projectiles. They were something new. Something human, weaponized quantum disruptors that didn't just destroy matter, but unraveled it at the atomic level. The station, its alien staff, and its horrifying machinery dissolved into component particles in seconds. But Seoin wasn't finished. Her secondary mission was to retrieve any surviving human prisoners. What she found in the station's lower levels would haunt the Perpin Empire's nightmares for generations to come. 12 human children, their minds partially harvested, connected to alien psionic amplification devices. They were alive, technically, but their consciousness had been stripped away to enhance the telepathic abilities of Zarkonian military commanders. Seoin's report too. Admiral Koroth consisted of a single word: confirmed. The response from the Retribution was equally brief: commence Protocol Omega. Across 17 systems simultaneously, human strike teams began their true work. Dr. Minjun's biological warfare packages deployed through atmosphere processors, water supplies, and food distribution networks. The Empire's superior numbers meant nothing when their own infrastructure became a delivery system for human vengeance. On Zarian Prime, Chancellor Vextel was in emergency session with the Galactic Council when the first reports began arriving. Border systems going silent, military installations vanishing from sensors, trade routes severed without explanation. Impossible, the Chancellor's aide, Subcommander Rathkule, insisted. Humans lack the technology for coordinated deep space warfare. Our intelligence reports confirm they barely have faster-than-light capability. The emergency session was interrupted by a priority transmission from Fleet Admiral Kexteron, the Empire's military commander. His crystalline features flickered. Rapid color changes, panic, confusion, rage. "Chancellor, we have a problem. The Kelthara harvesting facility has been destroyed. Complete molecular dissolution. No survivors, no wreckage, no trace it ever existed except for the gravitational shadows." "Destroyed by what?" Vextel demanded. "Unknown weapons technology. But Chancellor, there's more. We're receiving reports from 17 systems. Military installations are being systematically eliminated. Supply depots are vanishing. And Chancellor, our forces are dying." The transmission cut to tactical footage from the Vorthok system, where the Empire maintained a major military base. Human ships, sleek, angular vessels that moved like living things, danced through the system's defenses as though they weren't there. Energy shields that could stop Stellar-class weapons failed to register the quantum disruptors that unraveled matter itself. But it was the biological component that truly horrified the assembled delegates. Empire soldiers, representing dozens of species, were collapsing mid-battle. Their own physiology, turned against them by weaponized understanding of their weaknesses, was killing them more efficiently than any energy weapon. "How many, Chancellor?" Vextel whispered. 700 installations destroyed, approximately 4 million military casualties, and Chancellor, there, targeting the infrastructure, supply lines, communication networks, manufacturing facilities. They're not just attacking our military, they're attacking our civilization. Commander Zex Meridian's voice crackled through the quantum static as she reported from the hegemony's primary shipyard. Target neutralized. Beginning Phase 3. Phase 3, Admiral Korath knew, would send a message the Empire could never ignore. It was time to hit them where they thought they were safest. It was time to attack the core worlds. The Galactic Empire's response came. 72 hours later, with the fury of a wounded god, Admiral Korath watched the tactical displays as massive. Imperial fleets converged on suspected human positions, their numbers blotting out stars. 3 million vessels, representing the combined military might of 4 million systems, swept through space like an avenging tsunami. They found nothing. Ghost Protocol active, reported Captain Jung-hoon from his position at the sensor array. All fleet elements successfully relocated to secondary positions. The human fleet had vanished again into the void between stars, leaving the Empire's massive armada to strike empty space and abandon bases that had been evacuated days earlier. But the Imperial response revealed something crucial. They were angry, desperate, and making mistakes. Chancellor Vextel's emergency broadcast reached every corner of the galaxy. The terrorist organization, calling itself humanity, has committed acts of unprecedented barbarism against peaceful civilizations. In response, the Galactic Empire hereby authorizes total pacification protocols for all human-controlled territories. Dr. Elizabeth Blackwood monitored the transmission from the science vessel Synthesis, her expression shifting from cold fury to something far more dangerous satisfaction. "They've just made our decision for us, Admiral." "Explain," Korath commanded. "Total pacification protocols mean they're planning to exterminate every human in the galaxy. Civilian populations, children, elderly, everyone. They've just declared genocide, and they've broadcast it to every species in the Empire." Blackwood's pale hands moved across her biological warfare controls. "The moderate species will turn against them. Fear makes excellent motivation." What the Empire didn't realize was that humanity had spent 3 centuries not just studying their technology, but their psychology, their politics, their deepest fears and prejudices. The Galactic Empire wasn't a unified entity, was a collection of species held together by mutual benefit and careful political balance. Commander Zex Meridian's cybernetic eye blazed as she reviewed intelligence reports. The Velthani are already questioning the protocols. Their High Council issued a statement calling for proportionate response. The Thrakari are requesting clarification on civilian targeting authorizations, and the hegemony's response. Admiral Korath asked. Fleet Admiral Kexterin has ordered the complete sterilization of all human colony worlds, starting with the agricultural systems. He specifically mentioned making examples of the children they capture. The bridge fell silent. Every human officer present had family on those worlds, had friends who had chosen the peaceful path of farming and trade while the military prepared for war. Lieutenant Commander Seo Ian's voice cut through the silence like a blade. Admiral, requesting permission to implement the broken chain protocol. Korath studied the young captain's face, seeing the same cold rage that had driven him to declare war in the first place. The broken chain protocol was humanity's most ruthless contingency, the systematic assassination of the Empire's political and military leadership, regardless of species, location, or collateral damage. The moment we activate broken chain, there's no going back, he warned. Every government, every species, every civilian population in the Empire becomes a legitimate target. We become the monsters they claim we are. Admiral, Dr. Minjun spoke from his biological warfare station. They're already calling us monsters, and they're planning to murder every human child in the galaxy. I vote we give them something real to fear. The decision came not from tactical analysis or strategic necessity, but from a simple human emotion that the Empire had never learned to calculate. Parental fury multiplied across an entire species. Broken Chain Protocol authorized, Admiral Korath announced. God help us all. Sarah Chun Volkov's fingers flew across her electronic warfare console, activating deep cover infiltration programs that had been hidden in Empire systems for decades. Sleeper viruses awakened in military networks. Communication arrays began broadcasting human psychological warfare directly into the minds of telepathic species. Reality itself became a weapon. The first Imperial leaders died in their sleep as human operatives disguised through genetic modification to pass as allied species completed missions they had been preparing for generations. Chancellor Vextel's personal guard discovered their leader's crystalline body had been dissolved from within by a bioweapon specifically designed for his molecular structure. But the Empire's retaliation was swift and terrible. The agricultural colony of New Geneva was the first to die. 200,000 human civilians vaporized by orbital bombardment. Then came New Hokkaido, New Lagos, New Snow Palo. One by one, the peaceful human worlds burned. Admiral Korath received each casualty, report in silence, his weathered face carved from stone. Each death was a name, a family, a future, extinguished by Imperial fury. Admiral Captain Jung-hoon reported, his voice heavy with grief. Confirmed casualties, 1.2 million civilians. They're broadcasting the executions across all Imperial channels. As examples of the price of terrorism, the bridge crew waited for orders. For rage, for some human response to the massacre of their species. Instead, Admiral Korath simply nodded and turned to Commander Blackwood. Doctor, are you ready to deploy the Omega strain? Blackwood's pale hands hovered over controls that would unleash biological warfare on a galactic scale. Ready, Admiral? But sir, this will kill billions. Entire species will go extinct. They killed our children, Korath replied. Now they'll learn what that actually costs. The war was about to become something the galaxy had never seen, the complete extermination of one side or the other. The Omega strain was unlike anything the galaxy had ever conceived, not because of its lethality, but because of its intelligence. Dr. Elizabeth Blackwood had spent 30 years developing what she euphemistically called adaptive biological modification. The Empire thought they understood warfare, fleets against fleets, soldiers against soldiers, the civilized application of overwhelming force. They had never encountered an enemy that could turn their own biology into a weapon factory. Deployment successful, reported Dr. Minjun from the Biological Warfare Center aboard the Synthesis. Omega packages delivered to 47 Imperial core worlds through standard supply chains. Estimated time to full propagation, 18 hours. Admiral Korath studied the tactical display showing the progression of their bioweapon through Empire space. Red indicators tracked the spread through water supplies, atmospheric processors, and food distribution networks. The beauty of the Omega strain was its selectivity. It targeted specific genetic markers unique to each Empire species while remaining completely harmless to humans. Status report from the Zarian system. He requested. Commander Zex Meridian pulled up real-time intelligence feeds from their deep cover operatives. Chaos, sir. The new Chancellor Yex Thora has declared martial law across all core worlds. Military units are being recalled from the front lines to deal with what they're calling biological terrorism of unprecedented scope. But the Omega strain wasn't just killing, it was adapting. As it spread through each species, it analyzed their genetic structure, their weaknesses, their reproductive systems. Then it evolved, creating new variants specifically designed for maximum psychological impact. The Zarkonian military commanders found their crystalline bodies slowly clouding from within. their legendary telepathic abilities failing as neural pathways dissolved. The proud Velthani discovered their biomechanical symbiotes turning against them, their own enhancements becoming instruments of prolonged agony. Most horrifying of all was what happened to the Thrakari, the Empire's shock troops. The Omega strain didn't kill them, quickly it regressed them, stripping away millions of years of evolution until they became primitive, mindless creatures driven only by hunger and fear. Admiral Captain Jung-hoon reported, his voice tight. With controlled emotion, we're receiving surrender offers from 12 species in the Outer Rim. They're requesting immediate cessation of biological warfare in exchange for complete withdrawal from human space. Denied, Korath replied without hesitation. They had their chance for negotiation. Now they get to learn what harvest season really means. The human fleet had scattered across Imperial space like seeds of destruction, each vessel carrying out specific missions designed to maximize chaos and terror. Lieutenant Commander SCO Ains, inevitable consequence materialized in the Velthani home system, where the species' ruling council was desperately trying to coordinate a response to the biological catastrophe. Target acquired, she reported. Velthani, Central Command. Beginning final approach. The Velthani had been among the most vocal supporters of the human harvesting program, arguing that inferior species should be grateful to contribute to galactic advancement. Now, as SEOIN's quantum disruptors dissolved their planetary defense grid, they were learning the true meaning of harvest. But it was Sarah Chun-Volkov who delivered the most psychologically devastating blow. Her electronic warfare division had cracked the Empire's historical archives, uncovering 3 centuries of hidden records detailing the systematic abduction and processing of human children. The data she broadcast across every Imperial channel was damning. 2.3 million human children taken, 890,000 processed for neural tissue, 1.1 million used in genetic experiments, 320,000 sold to private collectors as exotic slaves. Each entry included names, ages, harvest dates, and processing methods. Each file showed the Empire's bureaucratic efficiency in converting human children into resources for other species. Advancement. The psychological impact is exceeding projections, Chun-Volkov reported. 17 species have formally withdrawn from the Imperial Alliance. The moderate factions are calling for complete cessation of harvesting programs and reparations for human losses. But Admiral Korath was no longer interested in reparations or political solutions. The numbers in those files represented more than statistics. They represented 3 centuries of systematic genocide that the galaxy had participated in, profited from, and ignored. Dr. Blackwood, he commanded, prepare the Genesis Protocol. The Genesis Protocol was humanity's final contingency, not just biological warfare, but biological replacement. The Omega strain would be modified to carry human genetic material, slowly converting the Empire's populations into hybrid human variants over the course of several generations. It wasn't conquest in any traditional sense. It was the complete replacement of galactic civilization with something fundamentally human. Admiral, Dr. Blackwood warned, Genesis is irreversible. Once deployed, there's no stopping it. The Empire's species will cease to exist as distinct entities within a century. We're talking about genetic assimilation on a galactic scale. They harvested our children for 300 years, Korath replied, his voice carrying the weight of accumulated fury. Now they'll learn what it feels like to be the ones harvested. The war had moved beyond strategy or politics into something primal, a complete elimination of one evolutionary path to make room for another. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for the right to replace their enemies entirely. The message arrived simultaneously at every surviving Imperial outpost, transmitted through quantum channels that bypassed all known defensive measures. Admiral Korath's face appeared on screens across the galaxy, his weathered features carved from stone, his steel-gray eyes promising finality. "Citizens of the former Galactic Empire," he began, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "You have 7 days to consider our terms: unconditional surrender, complete reparations for 3 centuries of genocide, and the immediate transfer of all governmental authority to human administration. Refuse, and the Genesis Protocol activates." Chancellor Yextera, the new Zarkonian leader who had replaced the assassinated Vextal, flickered through rapid color changes as she processed the ultimatum. Around her, the remnants of the Imperial Council, now reduced to representatives from barely 60 species, whispered in dozens of languages, their panic palpable. "Genesis Protocol," Subcommander Rathkule queried the human transmission. "What is this Genesis Protocol?" Dr. Elizabeth Blackwood stepped into view beside Admiral Korath, her pale hands steady as she held a biosample container. "Genesis's evolution accelerated. The Omega strain you've been fighting was merely the preparation phase. Genesis will rewrite your species' genetic code, gradually converting your populations into human-compatible hybrids over the course of 96 years. The silence that followed was deafening. Genetic assimilation on a galactic scale, not death, but transformation into something fundamentally different. You're talking about the extinction of every non-human species in the galaxy." Chancellor Yextera whispered, her crystalline voice cracking with horror. "You're talking about becoming human," Korath corrected. "Just like you made our children. Become resources for your advancement. The only difference is scale and honesty about our intentions." The human fleet had positioned itself strategically throughout Imperial space, no longer hiding in the void between stars. Commander Zek's Meridian's tactical displays showed human vessels surrounding every major population center, every industrial system, every seat of Imperial power. "Admiral," Captain Junkun reported, "we're detecting massive Imperial fleet movements. They're consolidating everything they have left, approximately 800,000 vessels, for what appears to be a final assault on Earth." Admiral Korath studied the tactical projection with cold satisfaction. After 3 centuries of systematic exploitation, the Empire was finally bringing the fight to humanity's doorstep. It would be their last mistake. "Let them come," he ordered. "Sarah, initiate the homecoming protocol." Chenvokov's fingers danced across her electronic warfare console as she activated. Humanity's final surprise Earth had never been defenseless. For 300 years, while playing the role of grateful junior members of galactic civilization, humans had been converting their home system into the largest weapons platform in the galaxy. The Sol System's asteroid belt wasn't a natural formation anymore. It was a distributed network of quantum disruptors, bioweapon deployment systems, and gravitational manipulators. Every piece of space debris, every minor planet, every comet had been hollowed out and converted into a component of a system-wide defense grid. Lieutenant Commander Seo Ayan's inevitable consequence took position at the outer edge of the system, her crew monitoring the approaching Imperial Armada. "Contact in 6 hours, Admiral. They're bringing everything I count representatives from every surviving military species." "Good," Korath replied. "It's time they learned what humans are capable of when we stop pretending to be civilized." The battle for Earth lasted exactly 17 minutes. The Imperial Armada emerged from hyperspace, expecting to find a relatively defended system protected by humanity's modest fleet. Instead, they found themselves inside the largest weapons system ever constructed. The asteroid belt came alive with energy signatures, gravitational anomalies, and quantum distortions that defied every law of physics the Empire understood. 800,000. Imperial vessels were systematically disassembled at the molecular level by weapons that treated matter as a suggestion rather than a law. The surviving ships, barely a tenth of the original force, found themselves trapped by gravitational fields that human scientists had learned to manipulate like tools. Unconditional surrender accepted. Admiral Korath announced as the battered remains of the Imperial fleet powered down their weapons. Dr. Blackwood, cancel Genesis Protocol. We have what we came for. The war that had begun with stolen children ended with the complete subjugation of a galactic empire. But Admiral Korath's final act wasn't conquest, it was justice. The 2.3 million human children your empire harvested over 3 centuries, he announced to the defeated alien commanders, will be replaced by 2.3 million of your children, educated in human values, raised in human families, and integrated into human society, not as slaves or resources, but as the foundation of a new galactic civilization. You're going to adopt our children? Chancellor Yexthara asked, her voice barely a whisper. We're going to teach them what the Empire never learned, Admiral Korath replied. That strength without compassion is tyranny, that intelligence without empathy is barbarism, and that any civilization that preys on children deserves to be replaced by something better. The human fleet had won more than a war, they had inherited a galaxy, and unlike their predecessors, they would build something worthy of the children who would inherit it from them. In the end, humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their tactics, it was their refusal to become the monsters they had defeated.